Hey everybody, it's Dr. Scott. I'm going to continue on talking a little bit about habits. Now, I don't know how this is going to go because number one, I'm having a terrible hair day, and number two, I'm not in my Jeep or my gym, garage gym, because when I have the best thoughts, does anybody relate to that? Like my best thoughts are if I'm on a road trip alone driving down the highway, or if I'm working out alone in my garage gym. Man, that's when I have the best ideas. But I'm going to give it a shot today in front of my camera in my office. I'm in my office today. So I want to give you guys a couple real life, my personal vulnerable, oh man, are we going to get vulnerable today? Examples of kind of building off of what we talked about in the last video. And that was thinking about who you want to become, why you want to become it. And that's going to kind of start to build your identity, right? And so many of us, you don't have to admit it to anybody but yourself, but I know most of you can raise your hand that at some point in your life, and maybe right now, you're stuck in an identity crisis. And what I mean by that is your identity is wrapped up into things maybe that don't matter, or maybe where it shouldn't be. So I'm going to give you an example from my life. And this has been multiple things over the course of my life. I'm just going to give you an example. So I grew up at the age of 4 or 5, started to play sports, right? Fell in love with sports, always knew I was a competitor at heart, right? That's built in me, as it is with a lot of people. So, playing sports through school, middle school, high school, and even played football through college, right? And then one day, it was over. Can't just go play a pickup game of football, put on a helmet and crash into people, right? Like it just don't happen like that. And the competition in my life was gone. I literally moved to Kansas City to go to grad school, the doctorate program I entered, and it was like my life changed. Like I went to school full time. It was like high school all over again, 7:30 in the morning till 4:30 in the afternoon. But then I, go work out, go home and study. That was my life. It was a full-time job. Okay. So I lost the identity of athletics and a competitor that I'd wrapped myself up in for my entire life. Memorable life since, like I said, 4 or 5 years old. Okay. That's my mistake. My identity was wrapped into that. And when I lost it, it's interesting to say, but grad school, I did great in school. I was summa cum laude, got good grades, did all the stuff. But it was some of the darkest times of my life because I didn't know who I was. And it led to a lot of pain and a lot of hurt and a lot of things personally and with other people as well. Okay. So is that you? Is that you? Have you lost sight of who you want to become? And your identity is something that you're like, man, what would happen if I lost my job? If my career went down the toilet, is that my identity? And that happens to a lot of people. Everybody probably knows somebody who's lost a job, lost a career. And it's like, some people can really struggle with mental health, maybe even suicide. Like they don't want to continue to live. Guys, this is a major issue with so many of us. Maybe it's other things. You've wrapped your identity in raising your kids. And when you're an empty nester finally someday, it's like, well, now what do I do with my life? My life is over. My kids are on their own. They don't need me anymore. Right? You guys following? You kind of getting with me? Okay, so that's the importance and kind of a real way to think about this and implement in your own life. Start thinking about that. Now, we're going to cover in future videos this whole setting your trajectory, setting a goal, but then realizing it or accomplishing it with the habits, the systems. We'll talk about that at some point. But first, I wanted to cover a couple really important concepts that maybe you know, maybe you don't. But one is called Hebb's Law, and the other is called neuroplasticity. So the whole point of this is you do not have to accept that you are the way you are, or you think the way that you think. You can change things. You can change your health. You can change your fitness. You can change the outcomes of your life. You can even change your brain. And that's what Hebb's Law and neuroplasticity says. Hebb's Law specifically was research done that says nerves that fire together wire together. So what that means is the more we repeat things with consistency, repetition, diligence, persistence. So basically, if it's a good habit, the more you repeat a good, healthy habit, the more you're literally rewiring your brain, your nervous system. Pretty fascinating, okay? Now, one of the reasons and one of the things behind that, again, if you read research, if you're nerdy like me, it's like, okay, what does that do? Like when you, and it can be good or bad things that do this, but activating the dopamine cycle in your brain. So the dopamine cycle, serotonin, other kind of feel good reward center activating neurotransmitters, right, are released when we have these rewards, these small wins, right? So I tell people to consciously give yourself and celebrate small wins. Doesn't matter how small. Like, start to activate that dopamine response in your brain. So I got up and I, walked for 5 minutes. That's a win, man. I got up and instead of eating a Pop-Tart, I ate eggs and, high protein breakfast. That's a win. Celebrate that. Start to get these things rolling in your brain. Now, with bad habits give rewards too. So you got to be careful, because if you're continuing to do bad habits that give you, maybe smoking gives you the stress relief, that's a reward. Okay, so it's going to activate that same cycle in your brain, that dopamine cycle. Okay, so you got to realize and understand good habits, bad habits can have the same effect on the neurochemistry. So be conscious of it. And going back to last week, we do so many things subconsciously. We have to be conscious of what we're doing during the day, even what we're saying to ourselves, in our brains, in our own heads. What are we saying about other people, about ourselves? That matters, okay? To this neuroplastic, Hebb's law, nerves that fire together, wire together type thing. Now, neuroplasticity, if you don't know what that means, if you take a piece of plastic and you add a little fire to it, a little heat, what does it do? It starts to soften and you can change the shape. You can mold it. Okay, our nervous systems are built the same way. Harvard has actually done some really fascinating studies. The younger someone is, the easier it is to change and the shorter time it takes to change it. So if you have kids that are struggling with health, that are struggling with spectrum disorder, or that are struggling with mental health issues, get them the right help now. Do not wait. And I'm telling you, it may not be medication. More and more evidence is showing that medications are masking, they're not actually treating, it's not getting to the root cause. Come on, y'all. Right? So until you've tried functional medicine, natural, holistic type medicine, and just depending on medications, just think it over. The younger they are, the sooner you get them help, the more you can change their brain and their neurochemistry. Okay, now it's not, all hope's not lost for us older people, right? Older people. It does take a little bit more work and a little bit more time. But if you start to build these small habits starting now, right, set the trajectory, then there will be success down the road, okay? It is what it is. All right, so what do we talk about? Hebb's law, neuroplasticity. I'll give you an example. I want to give you an example of you can train your body and your brain, to do things that maybe you didn't think were able. So 15 years ago, I couldn't even work out because I had such severe back spasms, right? And so that was before I knew a lot of what I know now. And what it came down to that set me on the course of studying some of the things I did in neuromuscular rehabilitation was I was breathing incorrectly. I was kind of like a chest and shoulder breather, and I was not an abdominal belly breather. And it was causing my low back muscles, and probably from years of abuse too, football through college, all the things. So what I did was I started to train my body. So I worked intentionally on breath work every single day, multiple times a day. In about a month, the back pain was gone. The back spasms were gone. No other treatment, just breath work, core work. Okay, the back spasms were gone in about a month. Consistently continued to work on it. Consistently and repetitiously continued to work on it with discipline. And after 6 months, it took a while. My body, my brain, literally, we call it a neuromotor program, right? My brain was teaching and telling my body, because I was intentionally thinking about it, that changed. Like, I do not have to think about any longer how I'm breathing. If I stop and think, how am I breathing? I'm actually abdominal breathing. Okay, so I retrained the programming, the hardwiring in my system to do the right thing. One example, it was a physical kind of a neuromotor pattern example. You can do the same thing with your mindset. You can do the same thing with your mental health, okay? So there is hope, there are answers, there are strategies, there are techniques, there are things out there that can help you, okay? So next time, I think what we're gonna talk about is, start getting into, the actual systems of creating small habits and what you can start doing with that. So again, to wrap up today, number one, remember who you want to be. Number two, why do you want to be that person? Think about your identity right now. What do you identify your life with, your purpose with? Are you living on purpose for your kids? Are you living on purpose for your career? Are you living on purpose for the things that really actually matter? Okay? unlike I did when I was younger. Thinking athletics and football that's all there is. It's all that matters, right? That's my identity. Don't be like me. Okay. Oh, and then obviously set the trajectory and remember that there's hope because of all these concepts I talked about today. All right, next time we're going to dive in even further. So I hope you learned something from this one. I'm Dr. Scott, and shoot, man, have a good day. Bye.